Hey everyone, Liz Holterhouse here today from OBX for Sale, powered by Keller Williams, coming to you to talk about buyer agency. This is video number 1 in our new series, Buyer Agency Unpacked and Why We Matter. Who you do business with matters. It really matters. Who you do business with matters, and experience matters. And going forward in this market, with the changes in buyer agency and in just agency law in general, and seller agencies and commissions and stuff, there's been a lot of changes that have come out of the NAR lawsuit. I am happy to be in business in the state of North Carolina, where not much has changed, because the changes that were put forth in the lawsuit with NAR are things that we've already been doing for a very long time in North Carolina, since 1995. What you will discover as a buyer is you will no longer be able to see a home, tour a home, without signing some sort of buyer agency agreement. So what we're going to talk about today is when to establish a relationship with a buyer agent. And I would say it's important to reach out and establish a relationship as soon as possible. As soon as you really are getting serious in the buying process in an area. If you don't end up buying a house, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. Not everyone that contacts us as real estate agents purchase a home or sell a home. And oftentimes it feels good when you are involved in the early part of the buying stage and you are able to help educate a buyer as to why they may want to buy a home or why they may not want to buy a home. And there are many times where people just decide, this is not for me. And I work in a market where our buyers buy for many different reasons. Of course, we have primary home buyers here. And of course, we have first-time home buyers here. And those are my passion. Help someone get into a home for the very first time, and hand them those keys. There's nothing better than that. Unfortunately, in this market, I don't get to do that enough. My market is mainly second home buyers and investment buyers, and that is an exciting market as well. But there's a lot to know about buying any real estate on the Outer Banks. It is a coastal community, and there are lots of quirks and lots of laws and things you can do and can't do in our coastal community. And so for so many reasons, it's really important to establish a relationship with a buyer agent. And it doesn't have to be the first one that you reach out to. You know, you're going to make one of the biggest investments of your life, whether it's your primary home or a second home or a rental home or an investment property. Real estate is a big deal. And, you know, act like a CEO or you are a CEO of your investments or your second home, and do some investigative work and interview a couple agents. There is nothing wrong with that. Make sure the agent that you are hiring has some good experience behind them and has some market knowledge behind them. Make sure they live in the area in which you want to purchase in. There are so many agents that are licensed in the state of Virginia and North Carolina. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that is a huge area to cover. And the markets are so different, and the coastal market is extremely complicated. I would want to know that the agent that I'm going to use to help me purchase a coastal property has actually sold more than one home on the Outer Banks. And that's just a a trend that seems to be going on down here. So I would say make sure you know who you're in business with. Make sure you know who you're hiring, because you are hiring a buyer agent to represent you. So what a buyer agent is going to do in the very beginning when they first meet you, if you're not ready yet to look at property, they're probably, if they're good at what they do and experienced and have a lot of systems in place like we do, we're going to put you on like an educational email drip, basically, one that kind of goes through the process of buying and tries to educate you a little bit at a time so it's not so overwhelming. And the reason behind this, or the thought process behind this, is to trigger questions. Some of it you may know, some of it you may not know, and it's meant to trigger questions in your mind. It always makes me nervous when I show one home and a buyer buys that home and they never asked any questions. I just feel like, is there something I don't know? I just don't feel like I did my job. And questions are good and research is good, and especially in these coastal zones. So what you're looking for first is someone with some expert knowledge in the market and in the local market and the surrounding areas. And they're going to help you to understand neighborhood trends, insight on property values, and awareness of upcoming developments and things like that. And what I mean by that, like upcoming developments, could be changes down the road on short-term rentals. This community or this town may be taking actions to restrict them. And if you're thinking about buying there and you're going to use the home as a short-term rental, this is something you need to know, because this is probably going to sway your decision on whether you buy in that particular area or not. It would also be something about like the Mid-County Bridge coming in Currituck County and where it's going to be, and is it going to affect where you're thinking about purchasing, and how is it going to affect you? Is it going to impact you in a positive way or a negative way? And then understanding neighborhood trends. Not every community and town and neighborhood right now is trending the same. It's just not. You have some towns that have very little inventory in them, and then you've got some towns like Currituck County where the inventory is increasing, and we're back to kind of a balanced market where it's not all about the sellers. The buyer now has a little bit more negotiating room because of the amount of months of inventory on the market. And that's really important, because if you're looking to negotiate and get a home off list priced, or get a home with some buyer concessions, or if the seller is not offering a buyer agent commission and you're being asked to pay a buyer agent commission, you need to know that you can negotiate that into your contract through seller concessions. And if that seller is not willing to do that, then we've got a problem. That may not be the house for you. And it's important to understand that if the market in which he is selling in, or he or she is selling in, has 5 or 6 months worth of inventory on it, that seller is probably going to be pretty willing to negotiate. But if it is a market that has less than 2 months of inventory on it, maybe not as much. And it may be that you have to look somewhere else. We are still seeing a lot of sellers. All of my sellers that I've listed in the past 2 months have they still see a value in listing with me giving a full commission, so I can offer the buyer agent commission through my brokerage, just like we've always done. They negotiated an amount up front. We decide how much we're sharing with the buyer's agent, and my firm shares that at closing. But if I come up upon a seller that is not willing to do that and we're not able to negotiate that, then there is no buyer agent commission. And so if you're working with a buyer agent, you're going to be asked to pay that commission, or you're going to be asked, if you're unable to pay that commission to that buyer agent, you're going to be asked to simply just acknowledge that this is not the home for you and you're going to have to look for something different. So understanding all of these things, insight into property values, upcoming developments and changes and awarenesses around what could happen in your neighborhood, and understanding neighborhood trends are all things that take a little while to grasp, and they're all important elements when you are just starting out that initial search. I would say it's also very important in the beginning to determine a budget, and then, reach out to a local lender or two and get yourself pre-qualified. The reason for this is some sellers will not let the home be shown unless the buyer is pre-qualified. It's also important to, in my opinion, it is very important to have a local lender who understands the quirkiness of some of our market. You could say all lenders are supposed to, they all have the same rules when it comes to flood zones or this or that. But if they, or even second home rentals, but if they don't do it every day, if they're not sure what they're looking at, it's not that they can't do it, it's not that they don't know what they're doing, it's just not a part of their everyday work experience. So what I'm saying is, a mortgage lender in the Maryland or the DC area or Richmond may not see a contract with a short-term vacation rental addendum attached to it, and they may not know what they're doing, and they've never seen it before. So they're going to throw on the brakes and say, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I can do this. And then it's going to be stressful for you, for them, for everyone involved. The other thing we see when we have buyers bring lenders from out of areas is they don't belong to an appraisal exchange that has local appraisers who are verified and approved through them. And then this becomes a problem because, especially during busier times, is they put out a middleman puts out the request for the appraisal on the home, and someone has to go into the system and accept it. Well, it's not going to get accepted. It's going to sit there, or it's going to get accepted at a very, very high cost. We saw a lot of this during COVID because that appraiser has to jump through some hoops to be able to even do business with this lender. And it's a lot of extra work. And if they're busy, they really don't want to do it. So for many reasons, but really just for the sake of an easy, smooth transaction where everyone has local knowledge on what they're doing, it is important to use a local lender. And of course, at OBX for Sale, we have vendor partners I've worked with for years that never let me down, and we will refer you to 1, 2, 3 of those and let you choose who you want to use. And these are people who are tried and proven. They're experienced, they have a track record, they know what they're doing. I know I like to use mortgage brokers because they have so many products. If you go to a local bank that has a mortgage department in it, a lot of times they can't do what we need them to do. It's not that they're not good, they just don't have the products. Some of these bigger mortgage brokers have more products for what we want to do. And oftentimes, most of the time, the rates are more competitive as well. So that is pretty much wrapping up our first session on buyer agency. And I asked you the question in the beginning, when is it a good time to hire a buyer agent or to look for a buyer agent? And I say, as soon as you're comfortable establishing a relationship with somebody. And that relationship may be short. You may just decide you're not well aligned with this person, and that's okay, but you haven't lost any time. oftentimes that person will just be there to guide you. Like, we don't spam people. We will set you up on listing notifications. We'll put you on an email drip campaign that is meant to kind of give you high valuable information over the course of a couple weeks, and then it stops. We educate you, and then we kind of just let you be and let you kind of look, but we give you the tools to look. Of course, you've got Zillow. I have an app you can use. KW has an app you can use. It's good anywhere in the country. Roll down the street, a house is up for sale, you pull it out, you open it up, and right there is all the information on that home and the sales price and that kind of thing. So it doesn't only work on the Outer Banks, it works everywhere. So we just kind of provide you with all of those tools. And at the end of the day, you can use what tools you like the best. Whether it's my website, my app, or Zillow, or Realtor, or Trulia, or RPR, there's so much information out there for the buyer that I think a lot of times they forget to reach out to a buyer's agent and establish that relationship. But at the end of the day, that human relationship, that one-on-one relationship, to me is invaluable. Even me buying real estate in another area, I don't want the AI algorithm of Zillow suggesting or trying to educate me. I want some boots on the ground of somebody who's lived there, where it's their home, that's their market, and they're experienced, because experience matters at the end of the day. So this is wrapping up our first session, and come back next week and we're going to talk some more about buyer agency and why you should hire a buyer agent and why they matter to you. And I would just leave you with this: as a buyer agent, as soon as you hire a buyer agent, you have contracted with somebody who is responsible for you, and our main job to you is a fiduciary responsibility. If you're looking at homes and accessing homes and stuff like that without a buyer agent, going forward, you're going to be required to sign a buyer agency agreement even to see a home. And don't be fooled. You do not have to sign a long-term buyer agency agreement. It can be for a day, a week, a month, 6 months, a year, whatever you want it to be. It can be for one home if that's all that you're comfortable with at that time. So, don't fall into those pitfalls. You will have to sign something going forward. It is the law, or you will not have the door opened for you, or that agent will be breaking the law. And, if they're willing to break the law on that, you need to ask yourself what else they're willing to do. That's not above board. So you will be required to sign something to look at a property, but it can be short term. It can be very specific to a property, but it's really important to establish that that buyer agency agreement. It's a contract between you and the buyer agent, and they work for you, not the seller. So I'm going to leave you with that. And until next time, have a great fall, and we'll see you again next week. I'll talk to you soon. This is Liz from Outer Banks for Sale, powered by Keller Williams.